My name is Movie Junkie John, and today I got to talk to Martin Portlock, star of the new horror film Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare. Let's jump into it.
Hey, this is Movie Junkie John, and on behalf of the team at the Horror Basement and Beyond, I'm thrilled to get to talk to the star of Peter Pan Neverland Nightmare today, Martin Portlock. Martin, thanks for coming on.
Hey John, how you doing, buddy?
Pretty good, you.
Yeah, man, I'm good. I'm just chilling, getting ready to fly out to LA in a couple of days to go and see this movie.
Awesome. I haven't seen it yet. I'm really thrilled to watch it. My first question is, so how did you get involved with what they're calling the Twisted Childhood Universe? How did that come about?
To be honest, it came about from Scott looking for a Peter Pan. To be completely honest with you, I was recommended by a makeup artist I'd worked with that, funnily enough, already knew Scott, and I think he was struggling to find someone to play Peter the way that he wanted to portray that character. So she put a good word in for me, and then the next thing I know, I get an email asking for an audition, which was great. And then 2 days later, I spent an hour and a half on the phone to Scott. We really hit it off. It was just absolutely understood each other in what it is that he wanted, and that was it. And that was it. There I was.
That's awesome. So I know that you have history with horror. You were in Scream of the Wolf, and I know
Yeah,
you were on ITV's Britain's Got Talent. You
yeah, that's
played a
correct.
witch
Yeah.
character. Did that prepare you for this, or was that in any way coincidence when you got this role? Did you think about that? What was that like? That connection, knowing you've done that before?
Dude, it was actually pure coincidence. And what was even stranger was the guys that did the prosthetic makeup on Britain's Got Talent were the same guys that I bumped into doing Scream of the Wolf. And then it had been the same guys again doing Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare. So I was like, oh my God. So I was very already comfortable with like the prosthetic side of things, which was Sean Harrison and Paula Ann Booker in the prosthetic studio. They've done wonderful things like Sleepy Hollow. They did Harry Potter. They've done loads, man. Their repertoire is massive. So yeah, in terms of preparation for this, I didn't really. This character is so evil and twisted. The things he does are so horrendous. I don't think anything could have like pre-prepared me for that kind of role. I mean, the witch on Britain's Got Talent was creepy, and that took quite a lot of prep to do that. Um, but this was a whole new level. Like this character, this Peter Pan he was way up there. I really had to get into a very specific kind of frame of mind in order to kind of portray this guy.
So growing up, were you a horror fan at all, or were you more?
I
Was it
was,
kind of just something you fell into?
yeah. So like, I think I kind of fell into it. I mean, I was born in the '80s, right? So I grew up on, hell did I grow up on? Gremlins, Ghostbusters, like all the Indiana Jones early movies, and the first horror movies I watched was the Evil Dead trilogy by Sam Raimi. I mean,
Nice.
yeah, exactly, man. And I think I fell in love with those because of the creativity that they had. They were probably the most creative kind of horror films that were out there at that time. Army of Darkness, completely creative. The whole picture was someone had created something for every frame. So I adored that kind of thing. And when I heard about Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare and Scott gave me the script, I was just like, okay, there's going to be a lot more creation happening in this because there's no CGI, everything's real. I said, yeah, let's do this. Let's do this. It hit that little bit of nostalgia for me.
Hmm. Nice. Yeah, I agree. Army of Darkness is one of my favorites. So it's interesting with this kind of film because you've got the director and the producer, and I was just curious, what's the collaboration like where you have the creator of this universe, you've got Rise Freight Waterfield, and you've got the
Yeah.
director Scott Jeffrey. What's the collaboration like on set with this? It's almost it's just an interesting idea. It reminds me kind of like with Spielberg, he would collaborate with people.
Mm,
He was a producer, things
mm.
like that.
I'll tell you straight up, it was absolutely wonderful. So a typical day on set Peter Pan was I would turn up, get into prosthetic makeup, and I'd be ready. We were waiting for other crew members to make sure they've got the shot right. So I'd be speaking to Scott about the scene. We'd be going through it, and then I'd wander off and get a coffee. And then Reese would be sat down with his iPad and his MacBook, whatever, and he'd be writing the script for his next movie. And I'd be talking to him, and we'd be talking about ideas. They're very open to suggestions and collaborations. They like to know what people like. They like to know what people think. They like fresh ideas. They obviously have their own vision, but they're not set in their ways or narrowed. They have that narrow vision into just what they want. They work really, really well together. And even Reese had a little bit of creative control in Peter Pan. He had a couple of ideas for different shots and different camera angles, etc. So it's nice to have that collaboration, and everybody's got something that they can be proud of in this picture.
Yeah, I love the cinematography, what I've seen, and
Vince Knight is a legend. He's absolutely brilliant. He's also the DOP who did Scream of the Wolf.
awesome. That's great.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I love all of the. I really liked the from what I've seen of your character. I really love the close-ups, how you were filmed. It's very intimate,
Yeah.
and there's something that's very terrifying when something is so intimate with an actor, especially in a role like this. When you're researching this role, you get it. Do you find yourself digging into the lore of like Peter Pan, or are you getting the script and saying, "Hey, I'm going to base everything off the script. I'm not going to try to dig into past interpretations." I just wonder what that process is like.
Mm. Well, I started off. I was slightly biased. I love the original writings from J.M. Barrie, the original play. In fact, my first ever stage role was Captain James Hook. Ironically, I played Hook as
Oh
one of
wow,
my first ever acting gigs.
that's awesome.
So I knew the story really well. I knew the characters really well, but I didn't want to let that influence what I was trying to achieve, because this is not the Peter Pan that we know. So I started from scratch. I didn't want any outside influence. I looked at the script. I made notes of the mindset of this guy, what he must be feeling and thinking, where he is, what he's doing, what his big plan is, tapping into, the reasons why and how he could possibly do all these immensely horrible things. We're talking kidnapping children and being in a controlling relationship and being manipulative and strangling kids and killing people, brutally. What allows somebody to do something like that? So it suddenly came to me that that's not something we do as humans.
Right.
Normally, like no normal person growing up would go, okay, I'm going to go out and kill someone now. There is always a reason for doing it. And I tied it into Peter Pan's pain. I tied it into how is this guy suffering? What must have made this guy suffer so much that he no longer cares about XYZ? And he's got a very, very set belief system in his head. And I think that some of the most dangerous people in the world are doing the wrong things because they truly believe it's right. They are the most dangerous people on the planet. So trying to understand that kind of psychology and work on that is probably one of the most difficult things I've ever done. So I really hope everyone likes the performance in the film in terms of the character in that manner.
Yeah, I really think that that comes across on the screen, especially even in what I've seen. you can just tell there's a layer of like humanity within the character. And even though they're evil, I always find that so interesting about villains is the idea of as an actor, when you're trying to get into these roles, how you tap into them and balance that
Mm.
line of, they're doing despicable things, but there's also this human nature of why are you have to, in a way, I guess, believe in a way what you're doing. Like you have to understand it. You may not agree with it, but you have to understand it.
You have to
So
understand it. That is actually the key. Like anyone can walk onto a set and say the words, but you've got to know where those words sit in how you feel about them. So yeah, no, absolutely. I think you hit the nail right on the head there.
with this kind of character, I'm just curious because I'm sure you have a big theater background. Do you find it more difficult playing a villain that has layers like this? Or do you kind of prefer more traditional dramatic roles where maybe you're not playing someone quite as despicable, maybe a comedy or a drama, etc.? I didn't know what your preference is as far as roles.
I'm I love it all. In all honesty, I love it all. I think the more complex a character, the more interesting it is to develop. The
Mm.
more you can kind of do with that character. I have done comedy in the past and a bit of drama, and I actually played a bit of an idiot guy who was well, he's not really an idiot. He was semi Southern Irish heritage, but he was a bit dipsy, shall I say? And I absolutely adored playing that character. But there wasn't many levels to him. You could do so much being a bit dipsy and being quirky from the script, but Peter Pan was completely different. Peter Pan is there were so many like levels to him, especially when dealing with different other cast members, other characters. Wendy, for example, the way he feels about Wendy is completely different to the way he feels and treats Tinkerbell, and Tinkerbell is completely different to Michael. And Peter Pan's view on Michael is incredibly different to anyone else. So understanding that, you get a very kind of I'm hoping you get kind of a diverse performance between those scenes and dealing with each
Mm.
individual. Yeah,
What
no worries.
was as far as the makeup chair getting in, putting the prosthetics on? Is that something you were used to? Was that kind of a shock? Was something with because it's very good makeup. I think they did a great job.
Oh, they did great. The prosthetic studio did an amazing job, and they're absolutely fantastic. So I'd wake up from my hotel room, I'd drive to set, I'd get into the makeup chair, spend about 2 hours in there, be in that makeup all day long. Another half an hour to an hour getting out of it, and going back to the hotel room. So it was pretty full on every single day, like clockwork. And I looked horrendous all day, every day in front of everybody. So I actually got a little bit self-conscious some of the days. But yeah, the makeup was it did look absolutely fantastic. It was very comfortable because it's like a silicon. It's very like temperature sensitive. So if I had cold hands and I touched my face, it would feel cold through the silicon. So it became part of me, and I just used that, in the performance.
Is there anything you want to promote as far as the dates with the film? Anything you want anyone to know?
Yeah, man. So the film is out the 13th, 14th, and 15th across the US. Don't miss it. If you're up for a big kind of psychological thriller, horror, slasher kind of vibe, Peter Pan is definitely for you. It's not just a cheap take on a character that we all know and love. There's depth to this story, and I think everyone's going to really enjoy the movie.
Awesome. I can't wait. Everybody go see it January 13th. And I really hope for sequels. I cannot stress that enough.
Pooniverse is coming out. Peter Pan's confirmed back for that, so they're going to get all the characters back for one big movie.
Oh, nice. Okay. Like a big Avengers matchup, right?
Yeah, kind of.
Well, that's great. I think we're all looking forward to that. Well,
Yeah,
thanks
man.
so much, Martin. I appreciate it.
No worries, buddy. Take care.
Thanks for tuning in. Hope you liked the interview, and I'll see you on the next go round. Later.